All right, so question. Let's go to the Penguin. You have two arcs, Sophia and, of course, the Penguin. How was it trying to score their music throughout the whole entire season because you wanted to kind of show their descent?
Well, there's very different because one is the story of a man who is a bit of a. It's really finding the true monster within you, and for Oz and for Sophia, it's really this tragic story of this woman who was framed for something that she didn't commit, the crimes of her father, and so actually she was one of my favorite characters to write for because. You get to start kind of creepy and eerie, and she's almost this ghostly presence that when you first meet her, and as we learn more about her, you start to realize that she's this character who's been unraveled by the world around her, and her descent into madness was really quite a tragic one. So it was a lot of fun to get to play with that.
Yeah, that was actually for me we've never really seen Arkham Asylum before.
Yeah.
In the animated shows did a wonderful job, but never in live action. How is it for you to be able to go into, for the first time really on film, the score of the Arkham Asylum?
Oh, it's terrifying because I mean, again, if you've seen that first scene that when she gets thrown in there, it's just they're hosing her down, and it's just this horrifying sequence that Lauren LeFranc did such an amazing job with, and I just wanted to do my best to try to make something really unhinged, and so on the scoring stage when we were recording the strings, there were all these moments where I changed a bit of what I wrote to be less perfect, or like in terms of you get to work with some of the best musicians in the world and who've trained their whole lives to play things perfectly, and I'm like, make this messier, start off like really in sync and just get messier and scarier with it.
It's what I liked about this scene because it's silent except for your music. It kind of really set the tone for it. My last question is, and for me is, of course, the end scene with Victor and Penguin. It's tragic. You knew it was coming, obviously. How was for you scoring that moment? Because it was, to me, one of the most tragic moments I've ever seen in a superhero type of story.
It was tough, and because I remember Lauren LeFranc, the showrunner, she said to me that when she was writing it, she had a horrible time writing that scene. When the editor was editing it, he had a horrible time editing it because it's so disgusting, and it's such an intimate moment as well. This kid is just pouring his heart out, and it's very sad, and just to have him turn on a dime like that. And so actually, simplicity was really the key for that. I mean, it's essentially just kind of one note, a sustain, and just very soft, and because you really want to hear all the sounds of the neck breaking. We also don't want to push you into feeling something. Just feel the horror of what you're seeing. And so musically, we just wanted to underscore it in a way that just ever so subtly plays up to the sadness of what's happening right here.
Okay, so Andor. To me, one of the more realistic of the Star Wars movie because it's actually gritty. It goes a little deeper into actually character. Yeah. How do you balance that with trying to create a great gritty world, but also it's Star Wars and it has to be this stunning visual world too?
Yeah, a lot of that is approach shots. So somehow if you go through all the history of Star Wars, there's always like this big planetary establishing shot, and that winds up being your big Star Wars moment. And then once they're on the planet talking about stuff, then all of a sudden you're into the character world, right? But Andor is that on steroids. So you'll have a big shot of Yavin, and you're like, oh, there it is. There's my big adventure shot, right? And then your big theme, you play it loud, big orchestra. Bring in the trumpets, bring it. Okay, and then, or if it's Mina Rao, you have a big shot. Then you come in, and then with Andor, you take it all the way down to like some very deep, hardcore interpersonal stuff going on, or big political or espionage. So I think the difference with Andor and other Star Wars is the dichotomy between, let's say, traditional Star Wars musical elements and the more grounded moments are very extreme. Those differences are compounded in Andor.
Michael, my one question is like, do you want to know the whole arc of the season?
Yes.
So, because I know some composers prefer not knowing from episode to episode. You
No.
want to know the arc so you can kind of arc your character themes and all of it throughout the season.
100%. So I had, and normally that doesn't happen in TV because they're still editing. You might read the script, but that doesn't. It's not the same as seeing the footage. And so before I met Tony Gilroy, I got to see all of season 2. It's all 12 episodes, and I was really sick. I was really sick, and I just binged them in like 24 hours. And then I had the meeting with him to see if I was going to get the gig. So in that time, I saw the full arc. I got to take in what my job was going to be in terms of the magnitude of what the mountain that had to be climbed, and then I was going to meet Tony Gilroy, who's I was scared to meet anyway. And so I get on the Zoom, and I think he saw in my face right away. He's like, "It's gonna be all right." I'm like, "Okay." And so I think that was like the moment when he's like, "Listen, I have come on gigs where I was coming on. Everyone else, it was a well-oiled machine. It's gonna be fine. I've listened to your stuff. We're good." And then that was kind of the moment where I calmed down and I said, "Okay, let's talk about the project."
And last quick question: how many times a day when you were working did you realize I can't believe I'm working on Star Wars, John Williams original?
I know. Yeah, it's. I think the moment that hit me the hardest was the TIE Fighter sequence. Yeah. So which is episode 1. So I once the TIE Fighter showed up, I was like, wait a second, I get to score a TIE Fighter chase, man. Like this is not many people have had a chance to do this. So I just felt honored to be a part of that lineage and to be connected with with the people who have worked on Star Wars projects. It's very humbling.
Avatar: Fire and Ash.
Yes.
We're not going to give away spoilers. Cameron will not be happy with us.
No, I would be.
So how did you want to honor the original 2 films and incorporate
Well, I
the
did.
music, but honor those, but at the same time make it your own because this is Fire and Ash is a different style.
Well, so I wrote the music for number 2. Number 1, I was the lead arranger on. So I wanted to make. I mean, this is a journey. This is one of those things where the children look different to the parent, and therefore you hope that gradually you take things that you see that have been seeded from James Horner in 1 and from me in 2, the themes that we had there, and now I've expanded upon them and added new themes for 3. And so there is a suite of themes. You know, if you're doing a Star Wars movie, you better include the Star Wars theme. So in this case, what I've done is make sure that we always have our references from 1 and from 2 into 3, but 3 has new themes. It also is Avatar musically has a style that is unique. You couldn't put an Avatar score on a Star Wars film, and therefore it's really important that style I've continued and expanded because we have new tribes, we have new vistas and so on, and new places we're visiting, and you expand the palette, and that's part of the great joy of doing this.
How do you balance, you had the wonderful visual effects, but you don't want to drown out the dramatic story, especially when the characters enter moment of music. How did you kind of balance that to make sure the music kind of merged the characters sometimes with this wonderful visuals kind of distracting?
Well, my job is to give you that emotional pull underneath the visuals. The visuals and the dialogue are telling you what to think about. I'm telling you how to feel. And that's the important part of music. Music is there to provide that emotional connection that you subliminally feel, and I can tell you how I can manipulate you musically, and that's part of what goes on. I'm also lucky with the Avatar series of films that Jim Cameron loves music, and so it's an important part of him, and he takes it very seriously. He takes how I write and what I write very seriously, and that really helps. You know, your ears are. Music is the second best thing behind smell in terms of triggering memory, and we use that all the time in scores. I'm giving you themes and leitmotifs that we use later in the film to trigger memory of something that happens earlier, and so it's used to trigger things all the time.
Arcane. So there's so much going on. It's such a fantasy world and visual world, which is a wonderful world. But for you, with the composer, how do you like to focus on the emotional, intimate moments?
Yeah, it's really easy just when the writing's really good, the voice acting is so good. Our animation team in Paris, they're called Fortiche, they they make your music sound good just because it's so beautiful to look at. With Arcane, it was never an issue to like find the character, find the raw nerve, figure out what's going on. And I think like, especially when you're a musician, like that's kind of your portal in, is like, what am I feeling just looking at the screen right now? And the crazy thing about Arcane is like, when I'm first starting it, it looks like, hand drawings and stuff. It's not fully realized, but even at that level, it's like the emotions are all right at the surface. It's really credit to those folks, because it was never a challenge to get there.
Now, I asked a lot of the composers, do you want to know every episode and how the season ends so you can arc it, or sometimes you might be afraid you don't want to give away too much? How do you like to, did you know for this?
I'm not going to lie to you, like there were a couple episodes where the second my cues were approved, I didn't watch it. Like because I also composed the show with another composer named Alex Temple. There were times I wouldn't watch his scenes just because I wanted to save it for when I got to see it on Netflix, because I like loved the story so much. So like near the end of season 2, I kind of like didn't watch a lot of the stuff I wasn't working on, just for my own greed of wanting to enjoy it. And it was great. We got to see like the whole premiere in a movie theater with fans, and I was like, this is the best.
Now, we have a lot of students in our audience, so my question is, we're going to let you be professor and assign them homework. What scene or moment are you most proud of? Like, you know what, please watch this scene. It could be a very small one, too. Something like
Oh,
this
that's an interesting,
it's
yeah,
something
yeah.
like something I really appreciate. Maybe it doesn't get as noticed as much because it's,
The
quiet.
two things that I'm really, really, really proud of were in season 1, like the song I did with Sting called What Could Have Been was at the very finale. That was just one where I was like terrified to do that one, because it was the very last scene of the season. I was told if you write a good enough song, Sting will maybe do it. So it's like the pressure was just like way inappropriately too big, and it was a really beautiful experience where I was like in a flow state. I just had a good day at the studio when I wrote it, and I just felt everything, and it all worked out, and it was a very like people were really happy with how it turned out, and I think that was just like, man, that's as good as music making gets, to be honest.
And how many times a day did you pinch yourself and says, am I working with Sting?
It's
Is this
crazy.
the thing that's actually happening to me?
It's really surreal, because like not only that, you also have to like give this person instructions who is like more of a legend than you ever even deserve to be in a room with, and I have to be like, no, Mr. Sting, like maybe this night, like it's a surreal experience, but when they're as talented and lovely as people like Sting, they make it very easy on you because they know how to be like, here, it's okay, like it's fine, let's make this music.